This is Chad from Blueberry Ridge Outdoors. In today's video, we're going to go on a tour with Chris Wolfe of his manufacturing facility, Wolfe Ridge Manufacturing in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. We're going to take a full shop tour from start to finish, from where the metal goes in to where the finished product gets assembled.
All right, so this big back parking lot is where we unload all of our steel, and we have all of our machines staged for shipping. So most of these machines out back here are going to a dealer, or they're just waiting on a customer to come pick them up. The big tanks here are for the laser cutting. So this big one here is the liquid nitrogen. That's what we use to cut stainless and aluminum and a lot of thin carbon steel. It helps us cut faster and keeps the material clean and corrosion free. And then the smaller tank here is oxygen. That's what we'll use for the carbon steel, heavier plate. We use oxygen for assist gas. And we have a semi truck comes in and refills them, once a month or every couple weeks.
This thing like purges or something once in a while.
Yeah, every once in a while this nitrogen will purge. And you see the lines are freezing up. That's because we're cutting stainless right now. All right, so this first bay here, this is where we receive all of our materials in, all of our raw materials. Our sheet metal, we have stainless, aluminum, plate up to 1 inch thick, AR 400 and mild steel. Usually use grade 50 AR 400, and we use a lot of stainless. And the laser currently is cutting stainless, so you guys can take a look in through that window and see it's cutting some stuff for some barbecue grills for a local company. Over here we have the hydraulic bandsaw. We don't use this as much as we used to. We used to cut all of our beams from structural material. Now we laser cut all those parts to keep the tolerances a lot nicer, a lot cleaner cuts, no twisted beams, higher tolerance and a better product, cutting it ourselves and building everything ourselves. But all the stick material is on the rack here. Like I say, we use basically, most of this material is going to go on the conveyor frames or bagging stations, stuff like that. We don't use a whole lot of tubing anymore. But if you want to take a walk over by the laser, check it out, look in the window there. We cut this thin stainless at about 600 inches a minute.
Did you ever think you'd get to this point?
No. No, I just wanted to sell a couple wood splitters so I could pay my mortgage.
You're doing something right.
Yeah, well, it's a lot of hard work.
Yep.
And keeping your head down, and don't buy anything you can't afford. So these are our press brakes. These are 5-axis Safan press brakes. This one is hydraulic powered. It has it can use either electronic swervo motors or hydraulics to power this one. If it has small tonnage, we can use just the electric power on this one. This one over here is all electric. So real precise bending. They're quite a bit more expensive than you would think, just this green and gray box here. It's between the pair here, we have about $500,000. So if anybody wonders why wood splitters are so expensive, it's because we have a $600,000 laser cutting everything and $500,000 worth of press brakes forming them. So that's part of the whole equation. Luckily, I never had to take out a loan for anything. I always bought, only what I could afford. Until we built the building, that's when I took out my first loan. So now if we, and this here is a fab office. Dave here, raise your hand, Dave. Dave's our fab manager. He handles any custom DXFs. He handles nesting for the lasers, scheduling for the press brakes, and keeping an eye on things, making sure we have parts on the shelf for weld. Dave does a hell of a job. He's gonna have a beer right after this.
Not before.
Yeah. We'll work our way next over into weld. Right, so this is where a lot of the magic happens. This is where we weld a lot of our wedges. And you see the guys, we have 9 guys welding now, plus a collaborative robot. This is where most of the wedges get done. Over in this room over here, we have the aluminum. We're doing some frames and hydraulic tanks here. Down on that end of the building, we usually weld the bigger things like the high output machines, the conveyors on the long bay over there, and then that collaborative robot runs the, mainly welds the beams for the splitters. So it's kind of like jail cells here. Everybody is kind of, you got all these curtains up to keep from blinding each other. You head down this way. This rack here is all parts for our beams. These couple pallets on the floor. This one is wedges for the vertical machines, but those are the main wedges for the main horizontal splitters. And this is where we build all the beams, all the laser cut top flanges, bottom flanges, and the different sizes. We have 24-inch, 30-inch, and 36-inch stroke beams. So, and then we'll fit them up on this fixture table.
Start to finish, how long do they take?
I would say probably like a 28 Pro is probably 20 hours, maybe 25. And that includes the hydraulic tank. We run a batch of 20 hydraulic tanks at a time. 20 beams at a time. Excuse me. So, doing those larger quantities helps to cut down the overall time per machine. But yeah, on the super high outputs and those bigger machines, probably 40 hours. A VSC is probably 50 hours. But it's being able to weld all those things in batches, send to powder coat in batches, that all helps the production process. So over here we have a 24-foot conveyor frame, or a trough. David's got welded up here. David today is our parking attendant. He's the one who's telling you where to go and where to park. He welds all the conveyors for us. This is probably number 404 on the conveyors. That pretty much David's welded all of it.
Man, number 400 is ready for sale.
And number 400 is out back today, so available for sale. Move on down this way. This is a 28 Pro or a compact commercial machine. Yeah.
So you don't use I-beam?
We don't use I-beam. We started using I-beam, but we had problems where the I-beams would come in twisted. And then you're doing more fighting with them, trying to straighten them back out and fix them than it was worth. So we cut and form and weld all of our beams. So then we can keep them nice and square and flat and true to size. I-beam has a 1/4 inch tolerance on square, 1/8 inch tolerance on width. And we want to have a more precise fit for the slide, the pusher, and not have, the sorting table sitting weird, and so that's why we went through that. It costs more to do it this way, but we have a lot better product that's going to hold up a lot longer. So, and this is about number 3,550 of the horizontal splitters. So, this stage takes about 3 hours to complete. So he'll take a beam off from the robot, from the stack over here, and start with that, and then add all these other pieces to it. And from here, it gets QC'd, tagged, and stamped with a serial number, and it goes out to powder coat from here.
Do you have jigs for placement of all that, or how does he?
We have lines etched on the beams.
Oh.
And then it's basically using a square and just double checking your measurements for square and plumb. And you know, that's all done basically with laser etching from when we cut the parts.
Nice.
And then powder coat, you should mention big sandblast to do it.
Yep.
I know like our paint finish is.
Yeah, it holds up.
Yeah.
So after this here, everything gets steel shot blasted and powder coated at our vendor that's just about 3/4 of a mile away from here. So we'll load a bunch of these on the truck, and then they got some stuff done. We're bringing back and dropping off probably 3 times a day.
Wow. Yeah. You've run this.
So the robot welds the beam, makes the beam?
Just the beam, yep. This part, yep. Okay. And you can see all the how the welds look coming off that robot. They just look awesome. So this bay here is where we do all of our high output machines, our HDI models, our VSC models. Keith that works here, I don't know what I would do without him. He kicks a major butt every day, all day. He doesn't take a break. Well, he takes like a 5-minute break and he's back to work. Like, he's the slave driver of the whole shop. So he's one that keeps, hey, I need this, I need that. And it's everybody's trying to keep up with Keith. And he does the hardest job in the shop. So wish he was here today, but I think he's working on his house. He had raised his house up that didn't have a basement, and he's pouring the basement. And got his house up on cribbing. Now he's trying to set that back all in place. So he's a busy guy, but he's, yeah, like I say, I didn't know what I would do without him. All right, so this is the truck we use to haul everything back and forth to powder coat. They say the powder coat shop's only 3/4 of a mile away, so a lot of times we're not even strapping the things down. We just take our time, get over there, get back here, and these are all ready for assembly. So you can see some of these have the cylinders on them and are prepped for the next stage. They kind of overloaded us. Normally we keep these inside, but they had so many come through all at once that we had to just start staging them outside like we used to do. So of course you see the vertical frames. Most of these are all 28 Pros. They send them back really quick because they have like 6 carts dedicated for these small machines, and so they can keep like 6 of them in rotation, going through blast, wash, and then powder coat into the ovens and then back out. The vertical machines take a little longer. They have to do some rigging and some special setups for the vertical machines. They're not quite as dialed in on those yet, but and being that they're so tall, it takes a lot to get them powder coated. So. But from here they'll go inside and do the final assembly, and then they're pretty much ready to ship out right after that. So. All right, so this is where we do our final assembly. This is our 28C compact commercial machine. Jay over here, the guy with the hangover, he has this same exact machine.
Oh, that's not part of it.
And I think it's doing pretty well for you, I hope.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, same color and everything. But we have 4 assembly bays and then 1 like pre-assembly area where we put our cylinders and push blocks on. And then basically from here, they'll move right over here, get filled with oil, do our test run, and then across the hall over to the QC area. And that's where they'll QC them and ship them out. A lot of these shelves are full of engines and pumps and whatnot. I think we have currently about $1.5 million in inventory for small parts, machines in process, raw materials. Yeah, so it's quite the operation. I never, I mean, I couldn't buy one of them pallet racks when I started. So just the rack, not the parts on them. So it's always reinvesting, and you know, if you can buy bigger quantities, you get a better price on things. You build more product in bigger batches, you save a little money. If you pay your bill early, they give you a discount sometimes. Some of the hydraulic shops, they have what they call a 2% discount for, or net 30, 2% 10 type of thing, where they have terms where if you pay for your bill within 10 days, you get a 2% discount. Doing all those little things really can add up, and of course having hardworking guys like Nick and Lee and Ben and Dave and Bob, all these guys working hard makes a huge difference too. And Nick doesn't like it when I crack the whip, but but it needs to happen every once in a while. So, but yeah, our hydraulic oil is on this main shelf here in the middle. We'll have once a week we get hydraulic oil brought in. It's usually about 300 gallons a week for the hydraulic oil.
So on final assembly, when you splitter leaves here, is it full of oil and has it ran?
Full, yeah, full of oil, and we do our test runs. We set the pressures, and then a second guy, QC, will also run them and check for leaks, double check everything's, the pressures are set right, and all that stuff happens right over here.
So when you buy your splitter, it's good to go.
Yep, it's full of oil. All you got to do is add gas. Yep. Yep. Some of the machines will ship, like to the dealers, we'll have them on racks where you can double stack them onto semi-trailers. Those would ship out without tires, but it's generally only those machines are going to dealers. Some of the vertical machines, we have to take the tires off, get them down for, especially going out east where they have all these low bridges and you have that conveyor sticking up above the machine. We'll take the tires off and save another 6 inches of height.
So would the dealer then put the tires on and get it ready for you?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. So no assembly required.
Perfect.
Yep. The only thing we have that needs to be assembled is our fire pits and the bagging stations. We send them out. Yep. Yep. And over here we have a bunch of machines that are ready for QC. All right, so all these machines here are ready for QC to check them over, and then they'll get rolled out the back door for shipping, or they'll get crated and sent out on a truck out this way. This one here, the red one in the front, that's the same thing that Jeremiah has at Outdoors in the 608. He has an orange one, of course, but this is the same unit. I believe you have the auto cycle. This one has the log lift instead. Of course, we have the big VSC, and the vertical splitters kind of took us off guard. We sold way more than we thought. So at one point we had 50 of those on order, and you know, they take 50 hours to build, or probably well, actually about 60 hours to build the first few, maybe a little longer. But I think that you know, I think we really changed the game with that machine. We put a lot of thought into it. It took a long time to have the time to do it right, but I think we did a pretty good job of it, contrary to popular belief. So, if you believe the Kool-Aid man. So. That'll do. We have that option, yes. Yeah. So this one has 20-inch stroke. We feel like that's the most common for a vertical splitter. So we do offer it in a 24-inch stroke. It costs $600 more. Yeah. So, but we feel like that vertical splitter, most guys are doing 18 and under. So that's why we went with a 20-inch stroke.
Do you know what splitter number 1 is?
Splitter number 1 I built for myself. So I had a decent job. I wasn't looking at starting a business or anything. I had bought an outdoor boiler, and I had about 30 quarter rounds I had bought at an auction where I bought the boiler, and man, I need a splitter. So I borrowed my buddy's 35-ton Spico. And I tell you, that machine would split anything, but it would take you all day to do it. So that 18-second cycle time, I did about a face cord. It took, 3 hours. And so I told my buddy, I says, "Thanks, John. Thanks for letting me use your splitter. I'm never going to borrow it ever again." And I proceeded to build basically one of our high output machines, something that I could tow down the highway, go over to my buddy John's house, and he would bring the tractor, I would bring the splitter. Justin, the guy that's selling fire pits out there, he would bring the saw, and the three of us would make a bunch of wood all together all at once, and then I'd tow my splitter back home 30 miles and have a cord of wood done in 3 hours with the three of us, cut, split, in the truck, back to the house, So that's how I started. And then economy in 2015 went down a little bit, and the place I was working was looking to cut payroll. So I was one of the guys that they offered this huge bonus to work weekends, and now they wanted to kind of get rid of weekend shift because they weren't as busy. They don't need to have the shop open, so I had a pink slip. And about five years at this place, and I got dropped just like that. And so I had bills to pay. I had to pay my mortgage, wife and kid at home, and so I sold my splitter. And I had so many people call me about it that I offered to build another one. And so the number 1 splitter, it went to a guy in Augusta, and then I had a guy call me 3 days after it sold, and he's like, "Oh, you still got that splitter?" I said, "No, I sold that like 3 days ago, dude." And he's like, "Oh man, I really wanted that thing. I knew I should have called you earlier." I said, "Well, I tell you what," I says, "I got a welder in the garage. I got a bunch of steel. I could build another one for you if you want." And this guy happened to be a retired baseball player. He was a designated hitter for the Twins and for the Mariners. For the Marlins, he played ball in Japan as a designated hitter. He says, yeah. He says, yeah, I'll take a red one and put a Honda on that thing and bring it up here. I'll pay you cash for it. So, okay. I proceeded to build one for him, and he was so excited about it. Well, first off, I pulled up to his house, and I was worried about my truck leaking oil in his driveway, and a big 6,000 square foot house in Afton Alps. Like super intimidated just to even go up to the guy's door, and I turn and look, and here's a guy walking over. He's wearing duck Carhartt pants and a red and black flannel, the classic Paul Bunyan guy, right? And the dude's like 6'4", and built like a brick porta potty. And he's coming over and he's looking underneath the machine, and he's "Oh, this is so cool. You should build another one." I was like, "I don't know. I need to find a job." and my wife's gonna kill me if I keep doing this. And he's like, no, you did a really good job of this. I bet you somebody else is gonna want one. You keep building them. Here's a couple $100 extra, I'll go get some more parts. And well, I felt obligated at that point. He gave me $200 tip. And so I stopped at Northern Tool on my way home. I bought another engine. I bought another pump mount. I bought a couple things that I could buy there that I couldn't find elsewhere. And I started building another one. 3 days later, a local guy says, yeah, I'd buy one. How about, can you paint it red and black? And I'll buy that, wanted a 35 ton, wanted fenders on it and stuff. And okay, so now we got something going. My wife is not happy about this. We're in a 26 by 30 garage. I got all of the household crap that doesn't go in the house, it goes in the garage. The kayaks, that kind of crap. But we had enough room to weld a machine and then enough room to assemble a machine. And I just kept the ads going, and okay, I got an order. I worked 15 hours a day. I had enough, a couple nickels to rub together to get some steel, and kind of scrape by. Those first 10 machines where it was like, boy, I don't know if I got enough money to buy the steel or buy the pumps, but we made it happen, and a lot of long days, but the garage has grown a little bit. And a lot of people go in business and think, oh, I'm starting a business, I'm going to buy this and I'm going to buy that and I'm going to get a nice fancy truck. And you can't do that. You have to stick with what you got, right? I had a CP 200 Miller welder from 1960s. It was one of those where the old telephone operator, you pull the cord out and you stick it in a different slot. That's how you set your amperage. It took me 7 machines to be able to buy a new used Lincoln 250 that was made this century. So business lesson for you guys: take it slow. Only buy what you can afford. Don't take out any loans. Don't take out any loans, right? Until you have established. And when we built this building, I paid for half of it down. So, but during the time it was being built, I squirreled away enough to where I could pay for half of it, and then I felt comfortable enough with the thing. The first place I rented, it was basically here to this wall, to that pallet rack, is what we had for space. It cost me $400 a month, and I thought my wife was going to have an aneurysm. $400 a month, we're going to go broke. We're going to starve. I'm like, well, they got a loading dock and a forklift. They've got 3-phase power. They do the powder coating on that side of the wall. So it was ideal, and really got fortunate along the way. I lost my job in August, sold my splitter when people are thinking about, hey, I need to have a splitter to get my wood done. And just got fortunate along the way, and a lot of long days, and a lot of great support from folks like you guys. So appreciate it. I think that kind of concludes the tour. Anybody have questions?
Hey Chris, how did you feel when you started getting that second, third, fourth, and fifth orders that started coming in?
Yeah, I really got nervous. I remember the first time we had 10 machines on the list. I'm like, what are we going to do? It's me and Ben. Ben's our sales guy, and me and Ben had 10 machines to build. And at the time, we were trying to promise everybody 2 or 3 weeks, So I ended up having to hire another guy. Chris, who's still with us today, does all the wedges. He started. David, that does the conveyors, he started shortly thereafter. We moved out of the powder coat shop and into the incubation center. The incubation center had cheaper rent for us. But yeah, what are we gonna do? So at one time, I think I tallied it up, I had worked 94 days straight. And I wouldn't, get to work at 6 or 7 in the morning and get home 7 or 8 at night. You know, and that's what it took. Thankfully now we have enough people where those jobs are covered. I don't have to go out and weld tanks and then put the machine together over here and go, well, Joe called in sick, so I need to go weld some wedges. We're quite a bit more fortunate now. I pretty much work 8 to 5. And this is your problem, and get it figured out, you know, and this is, you got to be able to delegate and kind of loosen up on the reins, not micromanage. So it's a tough lesson to learn. You know, the first 5 guys, Lee remembers, that, you know, I why are you welding it this way? Or, you know, we could do it 3 minutes faster if we welded it like this. And you got to kind of back off and not be a hard ass, you know, and people will do a better job. So, any other questions?
Where did your name come from?
Wolfe Ridge came from, my last name is Wolfe. We had a family farm down in Independence, Wisconsin, and it was about 240 acres back in the day, and they sold all the tillable land. And the only thing was left was a billy goat path up one of the highest points in Trempealeau County. It was too steep to farm, and so nobody wanted it back in the day, back in the 80s. And so my grandma kept it. My grandma passed away. It went to my mom. My mom sold shares to her brothers, and now it's basically just the hunting land, but we call it Wolfe Ridge. It's on Wolfe Road. It's, you know, you learn to be a billy goat walking up and down there hunting. So that's where we do our cutting wood and hunting. That's where I got the name from, Wolfe Ridge.
Great success story. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hope you enjoyed the video of Wolfe Ridge Manufacturing up in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. Wolfe Ridge makes a high quality splitter. They got a great product. So hope you enjoyed it. And if you liked it, click the like, smash the subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one. Have a good one.